In this video, I want to show you how I did some color editing to make the elements of this composite image come together a little bit better. And not only that, just to correct some problems with the original background image, which I thought was not exposed very well. So in the final image, I'm not going to say I'm 100% happy with how everything turned out, but for the most part, I had done some things to make. I wanted to make the giant Phyllis look like it was, you know, more coming out of the atmosphere and more in the same kind of light. I was really kind of going for getting some of the glow off of this building reflected on my face, and I just didn't quite figure that one out yet, so I wasn't completely satisfied with my results, but you know, it looks better than just how I had it. I do like the way the hand came out, but I'm still not so sure about this. This Phyllis down here, I don't think I have done enough to it to make it feel like it fits in the environment it is in right now, but I did do some changes to it to make it look. I knew it wasn't going to show up if it was just a black shirt, you know, with no contrast in it whatsoever. If I were to place it against a nearly black background. And so what I wanted to do was bring some color into the pants, like by enhancing that blue a little bit, and also to bring some color into the to the shirt as well. I didn't do the best job on those either, but I just want to show you a couple of, whoops, where did she go? I just want to show you a couple of techniques that I used, things you can try. And this is really where those blending modes, or applying a blending mode to a brush, come in really handy. This is also where you might want to use a fill layer and a clipping mask. So let me just kind of try to go back and recreate. You know, you can see that I just got a lot more intensity on the jeans here, and honestly, I think what I did on these was I created a fill layer. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm just going to do this like really quickly. Okay, so please don't like expect a super clean selection, because that's a little time consuming. Of course, the worst of it's been taken care of already, so that's good. All right, so I'm gonna copy the pants. Oops, I was trying to. Sorry about that. Okay, that should work. Just get rid of that right there. I'm just going to go ahead and copy these and put them on another layer, so that I can create a fill layer with it. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Okay, so I'm just going to copy it. Got to make sure you're on the right layer before you do it. Okay, I'm going to create a new layer. Okay, so those are what the original jeans look like. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a fill layer, and I'm going to use a blending mode to make that work. So what I want to do is I want another blue. I just want it to be a little bit lighter and a little bit more intense than what I had. And I'd like to start with something kind of close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and try to sample out like one of the lighter blues in the jeans, like say right about there. And then I'm going to open that up in the color picker, and I want it to be more intense, but I still want it to be in the same range. So, you know, you can see the most intense colors up in this corner. The more grays, whites, and blues get mixed with it, the less intense it gets. And so from here, I'm just going to kind of go on a little bit of a diagonal from this, a little bit more towards the blue corner. And I'm going to click there. Let's exaggerate that a little bit. And I'm going to choose this as my foreground color. Okay, so now I'm going to create a fill layer. I think we've already done that before. New fill layer. I want it to be a solid color, and is going to ask me if I want to use the previous layer to create a clipping mask. I'm going to tell it yes, so that I get a result that looks like this. And in other words, it only added the fill to the pants. Okay, I'm going to undo this now and show you what would happen if I didn't do that step. Yeah, let me do it again, and this time I'm not going to create the clipping mask until after I've created the layer. So you've got two ways of doing it, because clipping masks are very important. Okay, so I'm going to go layer, new fill layer, solid color. I'm not going to click use previous layer to create clipping mask, even though that's the smartest thing to do. I'm going to choose to do that on my own. But what a clipping mask does is it applies whatever colors or images or anything that's on a layer so that you can see it only where there are pixels on the layer below it. And so it's essentially what you have to do is you have to link these two layers together. Because right now, obviously, it thinks I want to fill this whole layer with blue, which I don't. I only want blue in the area where I had selected out the pants. If I press my Option or my Alt key, I think there's another way of doing this now, but I'm so stuck in my ways. I do it the old-fashioned way. I hold the Option key and I hover my cursor on the line in between the fill layer and the layer below it. And when I do that, you can see I got a little box with a little down arrow next to it. If I click that, watch what happens. Okay, first of all, you can clearly see that it applied that color only to the jeans. Second of all, you can see that it indented my my thumbnail a little bit, and of course there's a little down arrow which indicates to me that this is a clipping mask and it applies only to the layer below it. Now of course this looks horrible. I had no intention of using it like this. I wanted to bring the opacity down on that some, but one of the better ways I thought would be to, you know, try some of these various blending modes and see what happened. And yuck, let's see. I think I found with most of these, no, soft light is not cutting it for me this time. Vivid light isn't either. I can't remember what I did. I might have used, I can't remember what I used. I might have actually even used a couple of different ones. Screen is okay, I guess. I can't really remember exactly what I did, and I don't want to, you know, worry too much about going through it. You know, I could either do it that way, okay, or Yeah, I can't really remember. I'll just go back to let's just say lighten, and we'll take the opacity down quite a bit. And of course, I don't think that looks nearly as good as what I had, but I should have made a note about what I had. The other thing that I could have done is I could have masked out that area. You know, I could have, let me throw this in the trash. Okay. And I think that's what I did for the shirt. I, instead of doing a fill layer with a clipping mask, I actually masked out the shirt. You can see I've drawn a shirt around it here. And I used a brush. I decided, well, I want to have a red, so I chose a red of my liking. I didn't really sample it out of anything. And let me go to my foreground color, and let's just choose a nice bright red. Yeah, something in that neighborhood. That's more of an orange. And instead I applied a blending mode to the brush instead of the, whoops, that's too big. I applied the blending mode to the brush instead of just to the whole layer. And so in areas that I wanted to darken, you know, I might have painted into it, whoops, I'm on the wrong layer. I might have painted into it with, bring that opacity up a little bit. Yeah, it doesn't show up very good. I don't know if this is showing on the video well or not, but I'm kind of darkening by adding into it with multiply. That doesn't look very good. Let me go back in history. Your history palette is your lifesaver because you can make up to 30 or so mistakes. I think I may have used saturation for some of the areas. You know, of course, at 100%, that looks really horrible. You know, it was a variety of different opacities, different blending modes. One of the things I thought was kind of cool, and I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's not a good photograph, but you can see there's some little dots there. That you could not see when the picture was black. Those are actually on my shirt. Those are actually little dots that are on my shirt. They're very subtle, and you couldn't see them at all when the shirt was black. And I thought it was really cool that when I, you know, started to apply some of these, paint some of these blending modes on, the some of the lighter values that were already in the shirt that I could not see started to emerge. I didn't even know that they were there, and that's kind of nice. You know, I did a pretty sloppy job on this, I will say, but you know, you can spend hours and hours and hours doing a really professional job, and for what we're doing here, you're learning how to use this tool so you can go on and learn how to use another one after that, and you come back and master these things later. Okay, so we're becoming novice to intermediate with these, and we would become masters later on. So do the best you can with this. Really, really try. You know, do what your skill level allows, but you know, when you look at some of those things that are photoshopped that just look amazing, do keep in mind that Photoshop is not about clicking a button and everything comes out beautiful. It just photoshopping, there's no such thing as just photoshopping. Okay, a good Photoshop job is time consuming. Okay, so I just want to make sure you understand that. I did another fill layer with a clipping mask on this layer right here. I was not happy with it, but basically I'll explain what I did. I did a layer, new fill layer. This time I chose gradient for my new fill layer, and I had a gradient that I had already created that was a yellow that I had sampled out of the building here, and then a blue-gray that I had sampled out of the sky. Okay, whoa, don't know exactly how that happened. Let's cancel that out. Okay, oh, um, yeah, I guess I was on the wrong layer or something. Um, but this kind of created a yellowish cast over the skin down here and a little bit of a bluish cast up here. I'm going to let you read about using your gradient tool and creating gradient layers. They're very different in Photoshop than they are in Illustrator. And I just don't want this video to run much longer. So then I'm just going to kind of go through very quickly and show you the rest of these. This is an exposure blending mode, an exposure adjustment layer. And the cool thing about adjustment layers is you can always go back and adjust them more. So I wanted to bring out some highlights on the castle, and I was able to do that. Okay, I wanted to bring out, I'll show you that one in a minute. Okay, also wanted to bring out some highlights on the buildings in the foreground. The other thing I did, because I just really was not satisfied, I was kind of okay with the way the yellow glow was down here, but I told you guys I didn't do the best selecting job, and you can kind of see that where my hair is. And I just felt like it was standing out way too much from that cloudy sky, and I thought, well, if this is some big giant monster that kind of comes out of the sky, then wouldn't some of those clouds kind of be in front of me a little bit? And so I created another layer. If you can see this, let me make everything under it invisible real quick so you can see. Okay. I created another layer, I guess I blocked most of it out, that had only the sky in it. I had copied it from this layer down here, and then I had masked most of it out. Okay, and you guys know how to use the mask tool. It's this one right here. And I went back and forth between the white brush and the black brush to kind of take away clouds, add some back in. And I'll just do a little bit more to it since what I tried to show you just now didn't work so much. So let's say I changed my mind and I want to take away a little bit more of the clouds on the face. There we go. You know, I've got my black ink here, so it's taking away. Of course, that doesn't look very good, so I'm going to undo it. Or what I could have done is if I wanted to add back, let's say I want to add just a little bit more cloud, not that much, that doesn't look very good, but using like a really, really, really low opacity, like maybe 10-15%, and a big brush. And this is a case where sometimes I don't drag as much as tap or do like little short strokes. And I really did just kind of do a whole lot of going back and forth between using my black paint and my white paint to add and take away, add to take away, until I was okay with what I had. And then I decided I was spending plenty of time on it, and I didn't feel like doing any more to it. But that was essentially how I did that. I'm going to go ahead and finish everything up on this video so that you don't have to sit through any more of them. Oh, there's another exposure adjustment layer that I added to that new building I put here. So I got some of that light that was coming off of it to reflect onto it there. And then compositionally, I just still felt like everything down here in the foreground was really uninteresting, and I felt like the puppet still looked kind of awkward. And I really could do some more work to make that puppet blend in. But there was also this really cool window that I covered up that I really wanted to be able to see, but I didn't like having to work around it. So there's that really neat window. And so what I did was I copied this window and I copied this window. And what all the rest of these layers are is where I've pasted those windows back in to just create a little bit more visual interest. And I did have to use I did have to use my perspective tool. Oh, you know what? I think I am going to do one more video. I'll come back in one more video, and I want to talk to you about using my perspective tool and using my and how I did the strings on my fingers.